right here.
Instagram post is up too with you guys tagged. And I need to hold this, correct, Rockio?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he need to hold his or?
No, he's picking him up pretty good, actually.
Okay. Awesome. You have
So
the
I meet him
talking
at the front door,
points
Tom?
too. For...
You guys got them coming in, or the camera are coming in?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Okay, let's get started.
Ryan Helsley.
What?
Hello and welcome to the show. Brooke and Randy, great to have you with us. We are at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. We're at 330 Mid-Rivers Mall Drive in St. Peter's. We'd love to have you stop by. We'll be here until 11:30 talking a lot of sports. Jamal Mayers just walked through the door, as a matter of fact. Andy Strickland is going to join us later, and we've got quite a show coming up. Brooke Grimsley.
We do. It's very exciting. As soon as I walked in here, it is gorgeous inside. I mean, kitchens, baths, everything that you could look for. It looks amazing in here, right, Randy?
Yeah, it's a fantastic place to be, and we're thrilled to have you with us. So we're going to talk a lot of sports as we go along here. And again, we want you to stop by during the course of the next hour and a half. And St. Charles Kitchen and Bath has been in business for more than 30 years, and there's a lot of great things to come and check out.
There is. Yes. Yes.
And so we want to introduce ourselves. First of all, Brooke and Randy, and it's great to have you with us. You're the proprietor of St. Charles Kitchen and Bath.
Yeah, one of them. My name's Keith Earling. I'm the sales manager here. Just want to invite everybody to come out to showroom, stop and get a quote for any upcoming projects you might have.
And what's hot right now in the kitchen and bath industry?
Oh, it always goes through seasons, but kitchens right now. I see a lot of work being done in kitchen remodels.
Okay.
Yep.
And if somebody wants to get a kitchen redone, we're here, and you'll be able to see the store. But there is just so much variety. And if somebody hasn't had a kitchen done, you guys have been in business for 30 years. If somebody hasn't, Keith, had a kitchen done for 15 years, they're a lot different now than they were even 15 years ago, aren't they?
Absolutely. I always say the best way to get things started or kind of get the ball rolling is just come by, sit down, talk with me for a half an hour, 45 minutes, just kind of flesh out some ideas and sort of walk through it.
What is one of your favorite trends in kitchens right now?
Favorite trends? Under cabinet lighting.
Ooh.
Does a lot for a backsplash. It's really good out there.
Good. And we want people, like we said, to come by and say hi. And you guys are sports fans. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We love that. Actually, so as everybody knows, if you're tuning in right now, we like to have our bobbleheads right in front of us. And we had the bobbleheads provided for us today. So that's always nice to have.
Yeah. Keith, thanks so much for having us out here. We're excited about it. And it'll be a fun hour and a half here.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys coming in.
Thank you so much, Keith.
Keith Veerling from St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. We want you to stop by and say hi. Okay, before we get to Jamal Mayers, the Cardinals have another successful homestand, Brooke. They go 4-2. Yesterday, a 4-1 win over the Houston Astros. 2 out of 3 from Philly, 2 out of 3 from Houston. I kind of expected the opposite. I expected 1 out of 3 from Philly and 1 out of 3 from Houston.
Well, it was just a week ago that we were talking about what you would consider a successful homestand. I don't think any of us really thought much of what was going to happen because we saw the starting rotation struggling a little bit. We saw the bullpen really struggling, and the pitching staff has been a big conversation for us, but now it hasn't been a conversation. Steven Matz looked great on the mound yesterday. That's the start of the 6-man rotation for the Cardinals. And I was reading some of the quotes from Steven Matz yesterday, and we talked about mindset for a lot of the players changing going into the season. Nolan Arenado, him being healthy, his mindset going into the season. And Steven Matz has a really good mindset going into the season too, where he's been frustrated too about being injured over his past few seasons with the Cardinals. And they think that this will be the best shot of keeping him healthy is this 6-man rotation approach.
There is a significant amount of data that the Cardinals have collected, and Katie's piece at The Athletic is fantastic. But they have a method to keep pitchers off of the injured list. And right now, knock on marble, here at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath.
Yes, I'm sure they have some wood available here too. Plenty of that.
But they only have one pitcher that they planned on having here, and that's Zach Thompson on the IL. The Dodgers have 12 pitchers on the injured list. And so maybe that's something that the Cardinals are actually better at than the Dodgers. That might be the thing, but still, keeping pitchers off the injured list is a
So
really,
you're saying that
really
the Dodgers need to take notes from the Cardinals on
I'm
how to
saying, yeah,
keep these
yeah.
guys healthy and around.
The Cardinals are the model franchise for keeping pitchers off the IL at the moment.
Yeah, get that, Dodgers, and your checkbook baseball.
Yeah.
But I think that Steven Matz yesterday, by the way, 5 innings, 2 hits, and just 1 earned run off of that, 5 strikeouts. That was great to see from him. And then Lars Nootbaar.
Nutty Neuters of Newt Nation.
Oh, the Nutty News of Newt Nation. We're very excited to see that yesterday. And he talked about Brant Brown and how much that approach has changed. How much credit can we give to Brett Brown for what he's been able to do to change the mindset of the hitters this season?
It's unbelievable. First of all, what was it about Turner Ward that didn't work? And why did the Mariners fire Brant Brown after 2 months last year?
It felt like he didn't get a fair shot at that,
Yeah.
and that he was kind of the scapegoat for some of their struggles offensively. That
And
how was he even going to have a fair chance of implementing anything?
Right.
And that was the right approach of they hired him. I believe it was October that they hired him during the offseason, Brant Brown, and it was kind of a nothing. Like, okay, here we go, another hitting coach. Is it going to really matter? But they made sure they hired him early enough where he could work with some of those players during the offseason and implement that approach and what he wants to see from them going into the season.
And you know what's interesting is the players, almost to a person, say that he has simplified things. I remember when Michelle and I did the radio show, we had Mo on the show one time, and he talked about Jeff Albert's approach being a high-level curriculum.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to have a high-level curriculum with baseball players in any endeavor, but certainly not when they're hitting, when they're going to the plate. Like Shannon always used to say, the worst thing you can do when you get to the plate is to think. And when you have a high-level curriculum, what are you going to be doing? You're going to be thinking, right?
Yeah. What have we heard over and over again, too, with even Jordan Walker when he was sent down? Remember, that video came out of him talking to reporters when he was down in Memphis saying, I was hearing way too many just different voices, because they have their family who are giving input. They have a hitting coach probably that they've worked with their entire lives that got them to the point of being drafted into the majors. And then they have, of course, their major league hitting coach that is saying another thing. So that's a lot of different voices. And the TV analysts also giving insight into that too. Don't you miss that?
I do a lot. I do a lot.
But yeah, and then he invites you over your house, and then who knows what he's going to say, you know, what he's going to implement. But there is a lot to too many voices, too many cooks in the kitchen, as they say, as we're at St. Charles Kitchen and Baths. You like what I did there?
Oh, that's what we call
high level marketing.
High level marketing. That's what we call a segue.
I got Jamal to laugh, so that's all that I care about. That's
what we want. Hey, we want you to also know about our newsletter here at Sports Hub STL, because we got a lot going on and you need to know about it. So subscribe to the YouTube page, like the video, and if you haven't already, go to sportshubstl.com and sign up for the Hub newsletter. Sent to your inbox twice a week, and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, you'll be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise. You can get exclusive content and prize opportunities and more. And while you're at the site, you can check out all of the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com. And of course, as you may or may not know, Sports Hub STL is brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, something might look different from the last time you saw us before that Sports Hub STL. Oh, there it is. There's Jamal Mayers. Hey, Jammer, how you doing?
Look at this.
This is great. Yeah. Good. Do you need a new kitchen?
We don't, but I'm telling you, I'm getting some great ideas in here. This is amazing. Show this stuff is unreal.
Yeah, got to check it out.
The lighting looks amazing in here. Well, Jamal, a lot of exciting stuff surrounding the Blues. And, you know, we have our Blues Hub Weekly show that we do every single Sunday. And just seeing the progression, you and I have talked about the progression since formations leading up to this point. Now, we're getting ready for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And game 1 is set. If you guys didn't see that, by the way, it will be this Saturday in Winnipeg, 5 p.m. start in Winnipeg for the Blues. I think we're all excited to see this matchup. What are your thoughts just going into the playoffs and that first round being the Jets?
Well, it's funny because a few weeks ago when we kind of had an idea, obviously with a 12-game win streak, that the Blues were going to make the playoffs, the conversation started happening. Well, do they want to play Vegas or do they want to play Winnipeg? I don't know if they lost those 3 games in a row on purpose, but I think it's a much better matchup for them to face Winnipeg, even though Winnipeg is the President's Trophy champion for several reasons. One, Hellebuck last year struggled against the Avs in the playoffs. You look at what Bennington has done since the Four Nations, beat Hellebuck in the Four Nations, has the upper hand in that regard. And then you look at the forward depth, and I would argue that the Blues, I think the difference hopefully is the second line. On Winnipeg, they've got Nemesnikov, who's playing with Perfetti and Niederreiter. I think the Blues' second line is better. Listen, they won the President's Trophy, so it's not going to be easy. But there are a few question marks because of their history in regard to how they perform in the playoffs. It makes you super excited as a Blues fan to really get started. And I always love, not to get ahead of myself, but always love starting on the road in the playoffs because you start on the road, you win one of the two. That's all the focus should be. Let's just win one. So if you lose the first one, no big deal. Let's win the second one. Come home and you have home ice advantage. So that should be their focus is in the Edmonton into Winnipeg, and let's just steal a game. Let's steal a game.
For those who don't know, Jamal Mayers is a Stanley Cup champion himself. So you've been there. And I know that athletes are very superstitious. You mentioned the President's Cup trophy. A lot of people believe that there is a curse associated with that. Do you buy into the curse?
Yes, he does.
It happened to us, yes. Perhaps. Good memory, Andy. Yeah.
I hate to bring up, the hard part, but we do have to discuss it with the Winnipeg Jets. A lot of people are bringing up that curse.
It is true that it is a real thing. I mean, I was on the last team to win the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup, but it does happen. We were on the Blues team. We won the President's Trophy and lost in the first round to the San Jose Sharks. So had some terrible, unlucky things happen within that series. But the next year we had a tremendous run and didn't have the President's Trophy crown. So I don't know what happened. We didn't touch the trophy or anything. We did all the right things.
What's going on here?
So it was unfortunate, but yeah, I think you're right. Athletes, players are superstitious. They're well aware, especially if you steal one of the games, because you're not supposed to beat them. So that's why I really believe it's important. Like to steal the first one would be gold, but even to win one of the two would come home. Will put a seed of doubt in Winnipeg's minds because you're right. We are, very superstitious and that would give them that feeling.
I was going to ask about that pressure, and they're not unlike you guys were in 2000 because they hadn't been to, you guys hadn't had a deep playoff run. They haven't had a deep playoff run. And now they're the best team in the league, literally from day one. They get off to that great winning streak to start the season. And we always talk about pressure with athletes. Even the other day with Rory McIlroy, they're talking about pressure. Is there pressure going into a playoff season when you've won the President's Trophy? Is there something on your shoulders if you haven't done it before?
Yeah, I think for me, the pressure as an athlete is only the pressure you put on yourself. I think if you are controlled or influenced by outside pressure, there's going to be internal pressure. There's internal pressure for Scheifele. There's internal pressure for that entire group that's been there for a long time. They've had good teams for a while in Winnipeg, and they haven't quite figured out how to get it done. Hellebuck has had fantastic seasons. In fact, he's up for a Hart Trophy, not just the Vezina, which he will win again, the Vezina, but it doesn't matter if you don't do it in the playoffs. So there is that thought in his mind, can I get it done? And I know that seed of doubt can be ignited if you get off to a good start in a series. And it's something that you try not to listen to the outside noises, but I really strongly believe at that level, at this time of the year for elite players, the pressure they feel is the pressure they put on themselves.
And I think we can all agree that I'm not going to say goalies are weird. They're just different, right?
Yeah, I could say they're weird.
Yeah. Okay. But I wonder if a guy like Hellebuck looks down the ice and he says, I've never beaten that guy in Binnington. He's beaten him in the regular season, but when the chips are down, Hellebuck has never beaten Binnington.
He hasn't. And so all it really takes is there's a couple blunders he had leaving his net. There's a couple soft goals that he let in against Colorado. It's not the fact that he even got beat. He just didn't look himself. So the pressure is on him to start well. So if I'm the Blues, it's let's get to him early. Let's figure out a way. Let's bump into him. Let's get pucks to the net. Let's get tons of traffic and disrupt him and make him think, wait a second, how is this happening again? And I think that to me would be the focus. And the nice thing about it is that the Blues are comfortable playing that type of grinding type of game. They don't necessarily live off of, like, I think last year, the years previous, they analytically they lived off of the rush. And I don't think they do that, much anymore this year. They seem to be generating offense on the forecheck and doing it different ways. So I think that to me becomes more sustainable. It also lends itself to putting a lot more pressure on Hellebuck.
And you guys, this isn't a bulletin because we've asked the questions. You've had to answer this question a million times come playoff time. But the fact of the matter is, this season, Winnipeg 34-3-3 when they score first, 29-0-1 or 29-0-3 when they lead after the first period, 40-0-1 when they lead after the second. So if you're the Blues, you really have to be on your game early, right, to score first and try to have that lead.
Yeah, and you know what? It'll likely be a whiteout, as there typically is in Winnipeg in the playoffs. It's not a huge building. It gets loud in there, so the energy and the atmosphere will be against them. But again, I think the Blues are well suited for playing any type of way. They've certainly played amazingly well at home, but they're going to need to get it done on the road. If you don't win on the road, you're not winning the series anyway. So you've got to find a way to win a couple of games on the road.
What are your thoughts on Dylan Holloway? Obviously, we haven't gotten much of an update about him, which is always concerning. It's still week to week. And last time we heard from Monty, it didn't sound too promising that we could see him during the playoffs, but still we have to wait on that full timetable to come out for him. What is your concern level about this team moving forward without Dylan Holloway?
It's a concern. I think the positive is that not only are they able to hopefully fulfill that void internally, they signed a young kid in Suggerud who's come in. And I'll be honest, the first game I might have texted Strick and said, I don't see it. Not a great skater.
Yeah.
Great hands. Pace was a little bit too much for him. But since that first game, he's been really good. He's literally proved me wrong in the last 3 games. The reason why I say that is he processes quickly, doesn't hold on to the puck too long, understands what he's good at. He doesn't jump off the page. Got a great shot. Yeah, I get it in college, but can he do it at this level? I'm more impressed, regardless of his ability to finish, and we'll still be able to see that as he goes through. Can he play the give and go game? Can he play off of others? Is he responsible defensively? And he wouldn't be in the lineup as he is if he wasn't able to do those things. So I've been very impressed in the last few games that he will be able to fill that void in a top 6 role, and he looked good on the power play as well. So as much as it pains to hurt and to lose a guy who had 60 points, almost 30 goals, tough to replace those type of guys. I do really believe that Snuggerud, like a lot of young guys in playoffs, will be able to step up.
You were a responsible defensive player when you got to the NHL. Kyrie wasn't, Thomas wasn't. It's hard for scorers sometimes to find that. Well, and you mentioned Snuggerud is at least getting back defensively. That seems kind of unusual for a young player that's been a scorer.
It is. I think that, the challenge for him is going to be the pace. The challenge for him is going to be like everyone's stronger. Like all those battles are a little bit harder along the boards. Everyone's, it sounds silly, but like you're battling for your livelihood. It's a different animal than competing in college and in junior. So it's a whole new world for him. But I think that he's a big man. He's strong. I think that the game has not shown to be too fast for him. And I think his processing ability, despite what I believe is like his skating isn't great, will allow him to keep up with the pace and doesn't hold on to the puck long, makes the right plays. Sometimes the younger guys, they get back into the junior college type of mentality where they have a little bit longer and then they end up turning it over. I think that, playing with veteran players helps too. So, guys are sure talking him on the bench, allowing, Schenner's going to be, empowering him to shoot the puck, hold on to it, make plays. Like those types of little conversations go a long way as well during a game.
We've talked about it on the Blues Hub Weekly show, so I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me ask you this over and over again, but we've talked so much about Jim Montgomery, and a huge difference it's been seeing him take over, implement his system. And we've talked about these players, just even Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas and Cam Fowler, all these guys coming in and their games being elevated in a way that you hadn't really necessarily seen before. And you give Jim Montgomery a lot of credit for that. And of course, the players, deserve a lot of credit too. But Jim Montgomery, what have you seen from him and how he's been able to really elevate the play and get the most out of these guys?
Well, a few things. I'm not in the room, so I don't really know, but what I can see from the outside, and I've been around long enough to kind of gauge it, is that it's every coach wants their young guys to take on more of a role, right? The challenge for coaches is they're going to make mistakes. The challenge is, do you give them that second opportunity? Do you put them back out right away on the power play? That's the challenge. The challenge isn't giving them the chance. Giving them a chance is easy. Every coach, it's having to live and grow with them, understanding they're going to make mistakes. They're going to have bumps in the road. And I think that gives your players confidence. I always say, like, it goes two ways, right? It's not just the coach gives the player the confidence. The player then has to own the confidence and do it. And so I give Monty and his staff, not just Monty and his staff, a lot of credit, because the best example for me would be Bolduc, guy who was kind of fluttering, you didn't know really what he was. Is he physical? I heard he has a great shot. I haven't really seen it. Like, what is he really? Well, first thing I've heard Monty say to him is shoot the puck. You need to shoot the puck. And so when a young guy hears that, he's like, oh, head coach told me to shoot the puck. I get to shoot the puck again, which is what he loves to do. And then things start to grow from his game. Then you're seeing him being physical when he needs to be. You're seeing him getting on the forecheck. You're seeing him responsible, seeing him chip in on the power play. So I think that his really smart thing that he's done is allowing and empowering those younger guys to take a bigger leadership role, more ownership of the group. And I think they were never going to get where they are now without that. And a lot of that credit does go to Monty. Another interesting story I heard, I'm sure you guys have heard as well, is during the break, Monty had the PK coaches go over the video of the power play, and inversely the power play go over the PK, and then they would share notes. And I mean, I think that's genius. Sounds like a simple little thing to do, but
Self-scout, right?
it's yeah. And then it gives you an idea, like, well, this is what we would do to you. We'd pick you apart just like this. And then, it made you think, like, and then because of that, both special teams are better. So he thinks outside the box. He's a good people person, understands the players need to know that you care before they need to know how much you can know. Has that accountability piece still in order and lets them run it, right? So he oftentimes now talks about, they know the formula, they know they didn't play their game, they know, like, it's the room has to, like, do it, right? When it's always just the coach, it dies on the vein. But when it's the players that eventually need to take ownership of it, then it's actually sustainable.
You mentioned a lot of things there. And Monty the other night after the win against Utah was talking about how this experience will benefit these young players for a long time. He said that the vibes that are developed from this run are going to benefit these young players. Aside from what you just talked about with confidence, what else do players get out of going through this for the first time?
Well, they learn more about themselves. They learn more about, like, what's possible. They learn that they don't have to shy away from moments. I mean, there's going to be moments where they're going to score big goals. They're going to chip in. And I loved it. The playoffs. I mean, I loved the playoffs because it gave you an opportunity. The temperature went up, the physicality went up, every little getting the puck out, getting the puck in, every face-off, everything got amplified. And what's going to happen is they're either going to wilt or they're going to meet that moment. And I think that they've done it at different stages throughout their career, but you can't fake the excitement, the energy, the importance of these moments without going through them. So I think that's what he's talking about, is like, this is part of their development. This is part of their maturation. This is important for them to take that next step.
Who are the guys that you played with or against that were really frustrating because when the temperature got high, they were just dicks. Like Steve Ott was that way in the playoffs, right? Maroon was
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way. Who were some of the other guys that you played with or against that were just miserable to play against, and you couldn't bother them, and they just drove you nuts? You were kind of that way.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Honestly, I don't think I liked anybody that I played against, so I don't know if I can properly answer that. I probably have to. My memory is good, but it's not that good. If you showed me a series and said point to I didn't like that.
Well,
guy,
okay,
that guy.
I'll give you one from 2000. Brian Marchman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not good. Did not like him because he was dirty, and he'd go out of his way. So yeah, I would make a point to like catch him if I could.
We had the Frozen Four here, and you have to be pretty excited with the results there. If you guys
Yes.
didn't know, Western Michigan alum over here.
Bronco.
Pretty crazy. I mean, it's funny. Like, obviously, I knew that the Frozen Four was coming here. Western was the number 3-4 all season long. I keep in touch with Pat Furshaw, the coach, who was a senior when I was a freshman, keeping tabs on how well they were doing. But, it felt like it's a pipe dream to be able to make it to the Frozen Four. And they just kept winning. And, I planned to take my son to a camp in Phoenix over the weekend. We were leaving on Thursday, changed our flight to Friday. So I was able to take him to the game Thursday night. And then they win. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to be there. So I flew to Phoenix, and we were literally watching him on the ice with a buddy of mine, Eustace King, who's an agent in the NHL. And we're watching the Western play while we're watching our boys go through their camp. It was pretty exciting. Amazing feeling.
How much different, if it's different at all, is top level college hockey now as opposed to you came to the Blues in 96, right? When did you graduate?
Yeah, 96.
Okay, so that's when you graduated. So how much different is hockey now 30 years later? College hockey.
Yeah, college hockey. Honestly, I think it looks the same.
Really?
It's there's Western plays very direct, so they don't really carry the puck through the neutral zone. They just go north quickly, get it in. They're a big, physical, strong, good skating team. They won so many battles along the boards. Other teams may be different. I didn't really watch a lot of other teams. It seemed like BU was more wanted to carry the puck, hold on to the puck, and then either it works or it doesn't work. I think the players in general are way more skilled than they were obviously when I played. I think the game has evolved and changed. It's not as physical, but it's a more exciting brand. I believe that it's fun to watch it. It's amazing. I coach 12-year-olds, and it's really remarkable what some of them are able to do with the puck. So the game has shifted and changed, but I also believe, and not to take it back, but bring it back to the Blues. I believe that in the playoffs, the referees, they'll say this isn't true, but I always say it, and you'll watch it and you'll be like, the reffing of the rules regresses 5 years. Every playoff. They can't help themselves because they don't want to affect the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they let a little bit more go. So if you just turn on regular season hockey 5 years ago, that's what they're gonna allow, I believe, in the playoffs. So that, I think, also lends itself to how the Blues play and the grinded out type of game they want to play.
For all the people who are coming in on YouTube right now, Jamal Mayers joining us, former Blue and Stanley Cup champion. And I want to get back to the Blues because you mentioned how things have progressed. And we were talking about Doug Armstrong, the way that he has really set things up well for Alexander Steen to take over as the GM. And he has really changed this group to a really solid young core that is speedier than that 2019 team. We've talked about a lot of people want to compare this to the 2019 team. You had a coach firing. Now you're playing the Jets in the first round, but this team is very different in the way that he has been able to bring in that new kind of younger speed in the NHL that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I don't think you win with the formula they had. Honestly, I think the game has changed, even though it's only been 5 or 6 years. The game's progressed, right? And I think that was the issue the last few years, being honest. They weren't fast enough. They weren't quick enough. And I think that improving the team speed was important. Getting defensemen that could, activate and join the rush, move the puck quickly, spend less time in the defensive zone was important. I think, like you said, injecting more youth into the lineup is generally going to bring in more speed. I think that's been helpful and useful as well. But you're right. I think that at first, I think we all were a little shocked and wondering, did we just stand pat at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that was the right decision. I was wrong. I think that the team had underperformed, and I think that Monty's ability to put people in the right seats was important, and then allowing some of these younger guys to grow very quickly on the job helped as well. So yeah, you're right. I think that Steiner's group is in a better position, and we'll see who else they're able to put into the lineup in the next few years. I think the defense is going to have to get a little younger, and you're going to have to live through a little bit of pain there. But it'll be interesting to see what they're able to bring in and add to the pieces. And Bolduc has solidified himself as a top 6. Does Snuggerud immediately find himself there, or is he on the third line starting next year? Like, those pieces are yet to be determined, but let's focus on the power on the present.
Cameron, I don't think there's, speaking of the coaching change, this is nothing against Drew Bannister. I just think this is a fact. In my opinion, my opinion is fact. But I don't think that there's a single player that is not playing better now than they were before the coaching change was made. I think every single player is playing at a higher level under Montgomery than they did under Bannister. Yeah,
and I think that's Monty's superpower. Like, we sometimes forget, like, Monty had 90 points, 100 points in college is a senior year. When Paul Kariya won the Hobey Baker, they were line mates. And if Monty was born 25 years later, he would be unbelievable player in the NHL. Unfortunately for him, just facts, he's 5'9", was a good skater, not like not a blazer, and couldn't find his way. But he would be like a Braden Point in today's NHL.
Wow.
And so, he comes from that mentality. I bring that up because he sees the game as an offensive guy. When he got to the NHL, they tried to make him something different, but he also always sees the game as that type of player, but also has the scar tissue of what it feels like to be asked to change, what it feels like to be asked to do this and that, what is really wasn't who they really are, who he really was as a player. So I think with all that experience in dealing with younger players at Denver has brought him to this place. And I think that, he's tactically smart. You have to be an effective NHL coach to understand who's going, who's not going, what adjustments you're going to make, leaning on and trusting your assistant coaches to handle different parts of the game. But I think that, he's grown into this position, and his ability to communicate, I think, is probably his best skill, but not his only attribute.
I only have one more for you. Is there a difference from a coaching perspective between the playoffs and the regular season?
There is. I think that the understanding momentum, and I think you can't, if the third line's going, then they got to play more than the second line. You just don't have time. So, and if the second line's playing better than the first line, then you got to play them a little bit more. Like, you don't have time to see if they can figure it out, or see if I can switch these two. Like, you got to make quicker decisions, I believe, in the playoffs, because the time is limited. The moments are small. The momentum shifts are way more critical. Everything gets heightened. So I think that you don't coach differently, but you're probably your patience for, in my opinion, your patience for what you see and who's going on a given night. I personally don't think there's time to kind of wait it out if you would in the regular season.
Brooke, Randy, and Jamal Mayers here over at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. So make sure you come out and see us if you can, or if you enjoy it. By the way, we don't have any, usually like when we're in the studio, we have lighting that's on this.
Yes.
The lighting's already so good in here that we don't even need any special lighting. So that is St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. Make sure you come by and check out and talk to us. We are getting some questions in on the chat, Jamal. So I'm going to be putting you on the spot here. Are you ready for that?
Let's do it.
So from Flute Players 1978, thank you for paying for this question. He said, "Hey, Jamal, good to see you on. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Blues?" Ooh, that's a toughie.
Oh, wow.
I feel like Randy already has maybe a couple in his head, too.
Well, the guys that have statues out front are a good head start.
Yeah, exactly.
that's a good one. It's almost like you have to go different eras.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Hully stands above it.
Yeah, Hully, Brett Hall.
Chopper.
Yeah, Al McInnes, obviously. Oh, geez. Plager Brothers. I don't know how many are Mount Rushmore. I think I have already too many.
Hey,
only get four.
they said it's your Mount Rushmore, so you can make it however many that you want.
We can. A lot of people do. You can make an argument. I'll tell you this: there aren't 4 better defensemen in the history of the league than Chris Pronger.
Right.
Right. So
Absolutely. I think Prongs is on there.
Yeah.
I think Prongs is on there. Yeah, I mean, that's a good start
And then
right
Bernie.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bernie, obviously Bernie. And you know what? I might even be inclined to put Petro up there.
Really?
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Brought a Stanley
captain,
Cup to
a
you,
Stanley
so-
Cup.
He's
Yeah.
the
You know,
one, right?
That's pretty special.
Is that
Yeah.
heavy?
It
When
feels
you're
light. It
skating
feels light, buddy. It feels
It
light.
feels light in that
35
moment.
pounds does not feel heavy.
What did you do for your celebration with the cup?
Well, my little guy was only 6 months old. Obviously, it would have been nice to bring it here to St. Louis and also Toronto, but we just brought it to St. Louis. Yeah, so we went to Children's Hospital, had a party, like got one of those trolley, those trolley buses they have.
Yeah.
Took that around a little bit of a pub crawl and then a party later that night. So
Is that
That's awesome.
tough, like planning out what you're going to do with it for the day? And how does that work
It is.
with the, you have the person who's in charge of the Stanley Cup. Does he give you like any sort of rule?
Yeah,
for
so I
what you
picked
do
him up
with
from
it?
the airport. Funny story. So I picked him up from the airport and he said, "Hey, just so you know, only like close family and friends can like hoist the cup." And I looked up, I said, "Hey, I waited 17 years for this. If they're at my party, they can hoist the cup." I don't know, we're not getting off to a start like this, but it was the end of his like 3-week run of doing these parties. So I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he was kind of like tired or exhausted from
Uh-huh.
it, but I'm like, you're gonna need some Red Bull because
We're gonna get going.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we're gonna go. I feel like that's like the coolest job in the world, and he probably has so many secrets of things that he's saying. I'm
absolutely.
sure he's worn out, but it's like you kind of know
Dude,
what
you could be
signed
worn
up
out
for.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
not
like,
Yeah. And it's amazing, obviously different for you as a player, but just standing in line to get your photo taken with it. It's almost like it's a major celebrity. The cup just has a different vibe to it.
It's so
Yeah,
cool.
there's nothing like it. I mean, trophies so old. It's the same trophy. Like I know there are 2. There's a replica and it's the trophy that you have, and it's just you look at the names. I'll give you a quick story. I remember when we first won, I got told, "Hey, the cup's gonna come pick you up from your house." So I go pick up, and then we're talking to the cup keeper, and he tells you the story of like how the rings work and how many teams are on each ring and the history of it. He tells you like your name's going to be on the cup for 54 years. Because then after those 54 years, the rings, there's 4 rings, they start moving up. They're all equal size. Once it's filled, that ring gets taken off and get put into the Hall of Fame. So just hearing that like perspective and understanding of like, wow, like my grandkids are going to be able to go and see that. That
That's
was
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it was just within the last 3 or 4 years that Gordie Howe's name was removed because they had to take
Yeah.
off his ring.
Right.
Isn't that
It's-
wild?
It is. And it's just like, it makes you really wonder about how makes you really appreciate the history of the game, the history of the trophy. And that's why there's nothing like Stanley Cup playoffs. So
That's the
exciting.
best. I told Brooke before, because I get into it. There is nothing like it. And it's the one sport where as a media member who's emotionally invested and an idiot, that would I would go down to a dressing room and try to pop somebody because I would be so mad at them. I wouldn't do it, but I've thought about it.
You thought about it. He
It's
has a
crossed my
tattoo
mind.
from the Blue Stanley
Oh,
Cup.
nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
He does. He has a tattoo from
Yeah, I
that, so
did.
he's super dedicated.
You have one too?
No, no, I did not go that far. No,
I wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting it before they won the championship either.
Yeah. One more question, because I saw that number 1 Blues fan asked this, and I'm curious too. Your predictions for the Blues and Jets series?
Whoa. I'm going to say Blues in 7. Let's do it. Why not?
Game
like it.
winner? We'll just go ahead
Oh,
and
geez.
who's gonna have the game winner?
Game winner.
Say it's game 7. Comes down to one person.
In Winnipeg.
I'll go with the captain, Braden Shen.
Oh, I like
I
that.
love that. Yeah.
The greasy rebound goal.
Yeah. Right. With his brother
like
on
that.
the ice.
Yeah, exactly. That's how old I am. He was 18 when his first year in Toronto. So
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here he is trying to get his too.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this will be fun. We appreciate it. Your analysis is great. By the way,
Mhm.
tell us what's going on. You mentioned that you're coaching 12-year-olds and you still have individual skills, right?
Yeah, just doing some stuff for fun with kids and working on stuff in the mornings, and enjoying coaching, and going to take a little bit of a step back this year, be an assistant coach. We got a new coach, and Ryan Kane, so we're excited about him taking over, and it'll be good for my relationship with my son. And it's, coaching kids for 4 years. It'd be good for them to have a different voice. But it's exciting. Hitting starts this year, and
Good.
we play some real hockey now, so it'll be fun.
And what's the website? If people, when kids get out of school and you've got camps going and stuff like that, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, Joey Vitale and I do a thing called STL Elite. So it's just stlelitehockey.com. And we've got camps throughout the summer, and we got, it's a ton of fun. We love working with the kids, and our wheelhouse is really like 9, 10, 11-year-olds, because that's where we feel like the skill acquisition and the skating is really important, and kind of sets them forward for their hockey journey. But it's an elite type of environment, and they get to do off-ice stuff and kind of show them what it takes to, if they want to get better.
So no newborns yet.
Not yet, but
that's not your wheelhouse.
I got a whole
Okay.
system. So when he or she's ready to get those, get those skates on early.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. We're always good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
Good
you
to
so
see you
much.
guys.
So, and we'll Sunday night after game 1 on Saturday, you guys will kind of review game 1 on Sunday night, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Thank you,
Looking
Jamal.
forward to that on the Hub, Sports Hub STL.com. And of course, you can always watch our shows, our show on the YouTube. Hey, I'm going to put together a little DraftKings pick 6 for today. And it's really one of the great things that you can do, because it's so much fun. The crown is yours. Just use the promo code STL Sports and you can get rolling. Make a $5 bet and get $50, and they'll do so many fun things. They'll put so many fun things up for you on the app. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. And here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge to hit a home run. I think that's a pretty safe bet. I think Judgey is a guy that occasionally hits a home run. Today, he's going against Bradley in Tampa Bay. So I'm going to go Aaron Judge to hit a home run. And then, Brooke, I think I'm going to, I hate to do this. No, I'm not going to do it.
No, what were you thinking? Now I'm curious.
I was thinking of Pete Alonso, but I'm not going to do it because he's going against the Cardinals. I can't. Can I bet on
But
somebody?
it's something about Pete Alonso and the Cardinals, though.
I know, but I don't think
something there.
Palante's not going to allow him to.
Nah.
But how about
Do
this? How about this?
Okay.
I'm going to go with Nolan Gorman to go yard.
Oh,
I
Nolan
am.
Gorman appearance. Huh?
There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
So there you go. There is my pick 6. You can pick up to 6. I'm picking 2 here today on DraftKings Pick 6. Once again, go to STL Sports. Just use that promo code when you download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, and you'll have a great time. It's fun to play. You'll enjoy it, and I hope you'll join me at DraftKings Pick 6.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Oh, okay.
Andy Strickland. Strick Nasty is here.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, we used to do a thing in the mornings at 1380, and our boss was Dave Green.
Yes. Some things never change, Randy.
Yeah, right. Doing mornings. And our boss is
Jamal
Dave
was
Green.
talking so quiet. I walked in here. I was like tippy on my tippy toes because he was talking so quiet. I didn't know if we had to keep quiet or
We
if
don't
we're
have to
allowed
worry
to
about that with
raise
you.
the energy. Hello, everyone out there. Congratulations on the St. Louis Sports Hub. Everything that's going
Thank
on that
you.
you guys are doing. You guys are doing a great job. So happy to be here.
Thanks. We're
Yeah.
excited to have you here. And I know this is your favorite time of year, too. Hockey playoffs, nothing like it.
My wife calls it Daddy's time of year. DTOY. That's what we call it in the house. When the playoffs get going. So nothing like it. It's like a different season. Playoff hockey is like a different sport. It's not even hockey. It's like there's the National Hockey League regular season, then there's the playoffs. It's completely different. I look forward to it. Every game takes on a life of its own. You never know what to expect. There's going to be controversy. There's going to be hatred. There's going to be injuries. And there's things are going to happen that you don't expect to happen. So I'm looking forward to see what this looks like when they take on the Winnipeg Jets.
Andy, speaking of expecting the unexpected, this team, the way that it has just absolutely transformed throughout the season. Remember, there was that whole stretch where they couldn't even win 3 games in a row. Then you have the incredible franchise record 12-game win streak going on for this group. In your opinion, what do you think was the catalyst? What changed things for them?
Well, I think a couple of things. They made an adjustment, I think, with how they utilized Dylan Holloway. First off, like kind of sliding him up the lineup, putting him with Jordan Kyrou. They developed great chemistry. The play of Jordan Binnington has obviously been huge. When you look at how he's played coming out of the Four Nations tournament, I think having that break during the Four Nations allowed Jim Montgomery to take a step back, take a deep breath. It's been such a whirlwind for him. You think about it. Going from, Boston one day and then you're on another bench in the NHL the next day. He didn't really have a training camp. And I think that break allowed him to sit back and say, okay, who do I want to play with who? What do I have here? And truly evaluate what he has. And they made some adjustments, to how they play. But they come back from the Four Nations. They had a little bit like a mini training camp where he really had some hard practices with these guys, where they would go hard for an hour, scrape the ice, and come back on the ice and go for another hour. I mean, it was like what you would see, in mid-September when they start training camp. So he never had that. And I think it allowed everyone to take a collective deep breath and just, sit back and truly just say, hey, listen, this is where we're at. You had guys obviously looking towards the trade deadline because the trade deadline hadn't happened yet. And the team was looking to move on from some players. And I'll say this, Braden Shen staying here was obviously huge, because there were teammates of his that were saying, if you go, then I'm going to go. And you would have seen a significant domino effect if he were to waive his no trade and he were to leave. You would have seen other players leave as well. So him staying allowed the team to stay together.
How much of an impact? You mentioned that they changed some things. I guess the question is why Jim Montgomery changed things. What changed with him as opposed to Drew Bannister?
They changed their forecheck. In terms of how they forecheck, they changed their penalty kill a little bit. In terms of how they play inside their own end, 5-on-5 too. Just some little adjustments. I think he needed to get his coaching staff on the same page too. And not to say that they weren't on the same page, but I think collectively, when you come in as a coach mid-season, I just don't think there's time to really do a lot of that, where you have these conversations and, maybe some of those are hard conversations, but he was able to do that. And so not only have some individual meetings and get some players on board, you may have heard about, the time he spent with Robert Thomas, how much time Thomas, spent studying film of guys like, Nathan McKinnon and Jack Eichel, Patrice Bergeron, who Jim Montgomery coached for a couple of years there in Boston. And, got to know really well and just kind of make some adjustments to his game. He's a huge part of it too. When you look at the way that he's played, I mean, I think he leads the league in scoring since, over the course of the last month of the season. He's been unbelievable when you look at Robert Thomas. So, but I think Holloway, and this is why they miss him so much right now, and it's going to be a significant hole that you really just can't fill. Although it's nice having a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud be here right now, because you need him without Holloway. But I think having him develop chemistry with Kyrou, this is the best we've ever seen Kyrou play. I mean, ever. And you look at him being a -50 combined over the course of the last 2 seasons, and then finished this year, still had 36 goals, but was still a +23. There was, some thought that maybe, hey, if he was going to increase or improve his overall defensive play or his two-way play, that his offensive numbers maybe would take a hit. Still finished with 36 goals. But he and Holloway has a lot to do with that. They've got great chemistry. You watch the way they play, how they roam around the offensive zone, Holloway's passing ability, his relentlessness in terms of his effort that he shows every single game. And that's when you talk to Jim Montgomery, he talks about that all the time. Like, this guy is a relentless worker. He's not only a good player and he can score goals and he can make plays. His effort is contagious for the other guys. And he gave a lot of room for Kyrou. And, Shen obviously fit in nicely with those two guys. He looked quicker playing with Kyrou and Holloway. And now you had 2 lines that were scoring instead of just 1 line at a time, and they have a 4th line that started to play with some identity as well. Matthew Joseph improved his play and, found a spot and a role on the team on the third line. So everything just kind of came together. Cam Fowler obviously has been huge, leading the team in all defensemen and scoring on the team since he's gotten here. And he's a plus 19 here in St. Louis, I think, and -7, I think, before he got here in Anaheim. Different team, different situation, but this guy can still play, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to extend him this summer.
Yeah, by the way, if you aren't aware of it, his nickname is Scoops. What's the latest on Holloway? What do you got for us?
Well, he's skating, which is a good sign, right? And but really, until you start seeing him with the group on the ice with the team, can you start to get excited about a potential return? It's going to be a while. I don't expect him to be available when the playoff series starts, and I would be surprised if he were to be available at the end of the series, even if it were to go 7 games. And if he does come back, it's because it's the playoffs and they find a miracle and find a way to get these guys in the lineup, but he's not going to be 100%. So you could be looking at next season before he's 100%, but he's doing some light skating. Nothing significant, but if you see him practicing and truly on the ice with the group, even in a morning skate, I think that would be a real positive sign. But I'm not expecting to see Dylan Holloway in a Blues uniform, at least in the first round, but you never know.
Speaking of scoops, I need the inside knowledge on Jobu. Where did Jobu come from? Who brought Jobu into the locker room? Because I think it's a mystery, isn't it?
It is a mystery, but that's kind of the best part about it. You know what I mean?
I want to know who.
We all want to know. It's funny because I asked Robert Thomas, like on television, actually, like live. I said,
you put him on the spot.
Hey, did you see that?
Yeah.
He didn't even know who I was talking about at first. He's like, oh, Jobu. I don't even think it had caught on throughout the dressing room yet. And he even told me afterwards off camera, he's like, I don't really even know. Like, I don't think he was paying much attention to it. Now it's taken on a life of its own. And I remember years ago, Brent Johnson in his locker in Chicago, the Blues swept Chicago, and he was the goalie. Remember?
3 shutouts, right?
I think he had 3 shutouts in a row,
Yeah.
something like that. And, he was supposed to be the next guy, the next one here in St. Louis, at least from a goaltending standpoint. And he had this like gnome in his locker, and this little guy, and he was with the team the second half of the season, with the team in the postseason, in the playoffs, and he wouldn't give the story as to where he came from. So sometimes teams, they find these little characters, and they bring some positive energy, and that's what they're getting with Jobu right now. So no, we're not getting the real story. Maybe we'll find out.
I gotta know
where Jobu came from at the end of the what's he have in his mouth though? He's got like a joint or something in his mouth, I think.
Yeah.
They took the cigar out, and it was funny. I was reading something. They put hockey tape in his mouth instead of the cigar.
Hey, whatever.
It looks like
something
something
works. Yeah, you're around these guys a lot, and just the Jobu is one of those funny stories of something. Even the camera stare down that they've done during that 12-game win streak was something that a lot of fans enjoy. The chemistry of this group seems to be great. You're around them all the time. They're fun, they're young, but you also have a good mix of veterans in there that are playing into it too.
Listen, I don't think you win without little things like that. It's like the rally squirrel,
Yeah.
Like it's like little things like
Gloria.
that.
Yeah.
Gloria.
Mm-hmm.
It pushes you over the top. So that's what we're seeing now. Country roads. Although I had no idea every building does country roads. I thought that was like a St. Louis thing. That
honestly kind of confused me when I came here. I was like,
every building does it at the same time of the game too. So that's not a St. Louis thing, in case you thought it was. Although the Blues have gone away from country roads this year, but I think those little things tend to bring teams together and players together. They have fun with it. And maybe there's some real voodoo in Jobu. You never know. He's bringing something to the table. He's got his own locker with his own nameplate. Like he's a part of the team. He was in the team picture. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see
They put him in the team picture.
Are you serious?
He's like on the team, Jobu.
He gets a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I gotta know.
And then you go back and you remind yourself the role that he played in Major League. Like Jobu was cool, man. Even in the movie Major League.
Yeah, he is super cool. But this is a really great group of guys. You mentioned Robert Thomas and him looking over tape. What other progression have you seen from Robert Thomas and what we're seeing right now? It seems like he's finally getting that international attention that he deserves, especially with the way that he's been playing.
His two-way play. I mean, he's playing the defensive end too, defensive side of the ice. Like he's able to match up against the other team's best centers every night and win that matchup on a lot of occasions, as we've seen. over the course of the second half of the season. Like, it's a maturation process. It doesn't happen overnight. This guy was a first-round pick, but he wasn't a high first-round pick. He wasn't first overall like Nathan McKinnon, wasn't first overall like Connor McDavid, wasn't first overall like Austin Matthews, wasn't first overall like Sidney Crosby. Like, it takes time.
Who's the Russian guy we had from Edmonton? First overall.
Oh, Yakupov.
Yeah, Neil Yakupov.
Love Neil Yakupov. Terrible pick. Wasn't very good. Unbelievable in practice. I remember like watching this guy skate
Great at practice.
before the season would start, when they would just go out there and like play shinny and skate around. I'm like, this guy is just like ridiculous how sick he is. Like, you watch him play. And then when the bullets are really flying, and then it's like he just didn't have the toolbox upstairs and just didn't have the hockey sense. But you could see why he would dominate, when he was younger. And I mean, because he really could shoot the puck and he could skate and he had skill, but that was a terrible, terrible pick. Although that draft, it didn't really produce anybody that you would say, wow, they just really missed the boat on this guy who was maybe taken second or third or fourth overall. It wasn't like Alexander Daig back in the day in 1993. Randy, you remember Chris Pronger went number 2, and Daig even said after the draft, hey, no one remembers number 2.
Right.
And now we don't remember number 1, but we all know who number 2 was, with Chris Pronger turning into a Hall of Fame defenseman.
We had this question earlier for Jammer, but I want to ask you this too. I like putting people on the spot like you do sometimes with the broadcast there. But who is on your Mount Rushmore of Blues players?
Golly, the Mount Rushmore. I hate these questions, Brooke.
I know, but
I mean, because Mount Rush, I just realized like a few weeks ago, Mount Rushmore only has 4. You know what I mean? Like, I need more rock in the Mount Rushmore.
Look, it could be your Mount Rushmore.
We need like
so you
6
can put
or
as many
7
people up
for the
there.
Mount Rushmore. Well, you got to go with Brett Hall. I would go with I would go with Al McInnes on the Mount Rushmore. I would go with Barclay Plager on my Mount Rushmore, and I would have to put Brett Hall on my Mount Rushmore. And that means Brian Sutter doesn't make my Mount Rushmore. This is why I hate these questions, because if I had to do it all over again, I would say Brian Sutter and Bernie Federko go on my Mount Rushmore.
Here's the thing.
You know what I mean?
So Chopper's got to be on there.
Yeah. Holly's got to be on
Prong's
there.
got to be on there. Holly's got to be on there.
Yeah.
And then Federko.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you hate leaving.
He's
people
your
off
all-time
there.
leading scorer. Brian Sutter was my favorite player as a kid.
Oh, so your own personal Mount Rushmore, then that's cool.
Brett Hall was really my favorite player, but like when I first learned hockey and I was super young, I think it's because like everyone talked so highly about Brian Sutter in my house when I was a kid, and his leadership and how he just kind of had that old school. I used to run into him at Creve Coeur Ice Rink back in the day. He had no teeth, just looked like a hockey player. And I love Brian Sutter back in the day.
Yeah, he was the quintessential leader. If you were going to draw up a captain, a left wing that scores 40 goals in fights, and leads,
who weighs 170 pounds.
Yeah, I mean he was the perfect captain.
I know. We had him on. Cam and I had him on our podcast several years ago, and it was an unbelievable conversation. I wasn't sure what to expect from him because he had really never done a long form interview here in St. Louis prior to that, and he even called me afterwards and was like, it just made him reminisce on so many different things that happened. But he told some great stories, even when, Doug Gilmour was traded, and when he found out, they had to use payphones back in the day. So he called whoever he would have called, who would have been the boss at the time.
Ron Caron, right?
Yeah, Ron Caron, probably. Yeah. And he called Ron Caron when he got, after his first stop when he was flying, called him from a payphone. He said he ripped the payphone out of the wall and almost got arrested when he found out that Doug Gilmour was going to be traded. So we had Doug Gilmour on too, man. All the Blues fans, you want to listen to some nostalgia, listen to those interviews. Great conversations.
Immaculate Grid hockey. Doug Gilmour is a star. He's such a great, because you don't realize that he played like for the Devils and the Hawks. And he played for so many teams. He's a Calgary, Toronto, great Immaculate Grid guy.
Amazing. And, obviously going to Toronto and, being such a star in Toronto and that market, will just raise your profile to, legendary status, which is what he is in Toronto.
One more question.
Yeah.
And what is your pro for the Blues and con for the Blues going into this first series against the Winnipeg Jets? So something that will work for them and something that might work against them.
I would say the pro would be, I think the way you're defending right now, I think since the Four Nations, they're allowing just over 23 shots per game, something like that. I think them in Florida have been neck and neck It may have increased a little bit since that last road trip when they lost 3 in a row. But up to that point, they were leading the league in shots against. They were defending so well, and their forwards had a lot to do with it too. And I would say the con is going to be their penalty kill. They're going to have to make sure their PK is sharp. They're going up against the top power play in the league in Winnipeg, who scores a ton of goals. They've got some injuries right now with Ehlers being out, who is so dynamic. He's a huge part of their team. They've got some other guys that are a little bit banged up. Their defense in Winnipeg, they're not super big. They've got a couple real big horses in their third pair with Luke Shen and Stanley. Stanley's like 6'7", but they don't have great puck play, and like you can maybe expose them in other areas. But their top 4D are small, and they can really move the puck, and they're mobile, and they can skate. So, you're gonna,
since we're talking hockey, isn't it mobile?
Mobile.
Yeah,
What'd I say?
Mobile.
Is it mobile? Like against? I know the hockey lingo. You got to know that. You got to know that.
Yeah.
But so I would say the con, because their PK has been inconsistent, right, throughout the course of the season. Going up against the number one, power play in the league, they're going to have to make sure that they're sharp from that standpoint. And part of the pro I want to say is Jordan Binnington too. You're going up against Hellebuck, who's widely considered the best goaltender in the world. He's about to win another Vezina trophy, but their defense is so solid too. I'm not going to take anything against away from Hellebuck, and I do think Jordan Binnington could be in his head though, because you look at the head-to-head matchups, including the Four Nations in a championship game. Binnington won that one. He obviously won going back to 2019, but even the backup goaltender for Winnipeg has like a 914 save percentage. So if his backup had like an 88 save percentage, I'd be like, wow, Hellebuck is just truly amazing. But they both have amazing save percentages. So kind of gives you an idea how good their team is, not to take anything away from Hellebuck. But I don't think you would ever go into a game or a playoff series feeling like you are the underdog when it comes to the goaltending position. I think everyone has confidence in Jordan Binnington.
You mentioned the Cam and Strick podcast. What's the latest you got up?
We've got some good stuff. Like, listen, coming up next Tuesday, we just had Ole Kolzig come on.
Nice.
He played with Alexander Ovechkin, and he actually assisted on 5 of his goals as a goalie. We wanted to get somebody to come on to talk a little Ovi, obviously with Ovi breaking Wayne Gretzky's record. But Mike Johnson's coming on, who does a lot of work on national television up in Canada. Does a really good job on TV. He's coming on. We'll drop that Tuesday with the playoffs getting started. We wanted to get somebody who can kind of kick around some playoff talk and go around the league with MJ. So looking forward to that. We've got some other great stuff happening coming up after that as well.
You know who I heard an interview with is Mike Knuble.
Oh, yeah.
Only guy to play with both Gretzky and Ovi.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like Knuble's son just played for Western Michigan.
Oh, that might be.
And they won the national championship here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So
Amber was excited about that.
Yeah. He said some other kids that have played college hockey too. Mike Knuble.
Yeah, he played with him with the Rangers at the end of Gretzky's career there.
Did he?
And then he played with Ovi in Washington.
And where else? Tampa Bay, maybe? Where else did he play?
Knuble was also a member at the end of his career. He played for the Flyers twice, Bruins, started with Detroit.
How about that?
Hated Red Wing.
Mike Knuble. You still hate the Red Wings?
Not as much.
Not as much.
The change in conferences kind of ruined it.
Yeah.
And them getting bad.
And they haven't
It's
made
more
the playoffs.
pity now.
Since they haven't made the playoffs. Who do you hate?
In hockey now?
Yeah, yeah.
Boy, that's a good question.
Is there anyone you hate?
There's
not
like
pity?
From the peanut gallery.
Well, I think Colorado's a good
I would
pick.
say that more than Colorado because of the owner, but individually it's Kadri. I still hate Kadri.
Did you hear the rumor that Kroenke wants to buy the Cardinals?
Yes.
And move the team to Nashville? Have you heard that?
Have you heard that?
Whoa. That is not
Your
a thing.
scoops.
But,
I don't want to
goes
make
over
everyone drive off the road who's listening to St. Louis Sports Hub right now, but
well,
That's
I did
awful.
hear that.
the NFL owners.
Where did you hear that?
Yeah.
Or you're just Mike Shannoning us right
No,
now.
I'm not.
Where you say,
Listen, I don't think MLB would ever let that happen.
Never.
God, no.
If they won't let the Tampa Bay Rays leave Tampa,
Yeah.
they aren't letting the St.
But
Louis
I
Cardinals.
did hear
No.
a little hot stove action, and there were some significant leaders, I'll say that, in St. Louis who would, who are certainly in the know. And when Kroenke's name came up, because he does want to buy a baseball team, tried to buy the Dodgers.
Well, this has always been his dream team.
Yeah, and so he would love to buy the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that he would love to get in and buy the Cardinals. But they were like, yeah. And then because listen, MLB would love to have a baseball team in Nashville.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the fact that Nashville doesn't have every sport makes no sense when you look at that market right now and how great of a market that is. But I don't think they'll get the Cardinals. But I could see Kroenke saying that to somebody. Yeah, I'll buy the Cardinals and then move him to Nashville.
He has no self-awareness. And when he was nice to the media back in the day, he had said that because he's named obviously after Enos Slaughter and Stan Musial. He said that and this was when he was part owner of the Rams. Georgia was still alive.
Yeah.
And he owned already the Nuggets and the Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
And he said the one franchise that he would like to own is that.
Okay, so what if he bought the Cardinals and then started just spending like crazy and
He's not
turned the
gonna
team
do
into a
that.
championship
It
team?
would be
Would you
very
change your
interesting.
opinion on? Could you change your opinion
No,
on
I
Kroenke?
could not.
Never.
Just based on his ownership
Yeah.
too of other teams, it seems like sometimes he goes a little cheap in a lot of
Yeah,
different
he
areas.
wouldn't do that anyway. That's not his
No.
reputation.
No.
Will we ever get a football team again?
No. Not in my lifetime. Maybe sometime down the road. I know Kara Spencer is thinking that she'll do everything. You know what? Did
NBA.
you see who somebody right now just determined that they're going to spend $3 billion on a new stadium? Who is it?
Really?
What team is it?
That's got to be the going rate.
It's
Yeah.
$2 billion.
For an expansion team
Nashville.
in the NHL, it cost over $1 billion now.
It's amazing. Yeah. So the stadium thing is prohibitive here. So yeah, I don't think that's going to.
Commanders.
That's it. Commanders are getting a $3 billion stadium in DC.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Nissan Stadium, they're rebuilding that in Nashville. It's costing, they estimated $2 billion, and now it's well over $2 billion now.
It's amazing. So they're going to tear it down or renovate
Yeah,
it?
they've already tore it down, and they're literally, you can
Where are
see
they
it in
gonna play?
Nashville. It's right next to it.
Oh.
Like, so they're just tearing it down, and they're building a new stadium right next to it. It looks like an Xbox
Wow.
system with like a rooftop on it.
I can.
weird.
I guarantee you what would happen is if Kroenke, because he's in charge of all their other teams, if Kroenke would get a hold of the Cardinals,
Yeah.
he would put Kevin Demoff in charge. I guarantee.
God.
Oh, he's in charge of everything.
Right. Right.
And that would be
How
Chris
horrible.
Sloan
terrible.
works for them too. I saw Chris Sloan. I'll give him a shout out. He was down at a Blues game a few weeks ago. Great guy,
Yeah.
but he works for Kroenke Sports and
Yeah,
Entertainment and does some different stuff. Obviously, former St. Louis U basketball player. So I don't know, man. That would be crazy. These billionaires, they tend to get what they want. But I will say this though: if you're the DeWitts and you really want to sell the Cardinals, there would be other billionaires that would be interested in buying the
A
team.
couple of things. Number one, they also don't want that legacy. They know how hated he is in our town. But the other part of it, from their perspective, you remember Jerry Ritter, right?
Yeah, of
He
course.
was great. He ran the Blues for a while, ran the
Yeah.
Cardinals for Anheuser-Busch.
My buddy Neil Komodowski's godfather,
Oh, is
Jerry
it?
Ritter.
So Jerry
Oh.
and Jerry and Bill DeWitt were neighbors in Naples, and they would have their morning walk around the block and negotiate the deal for Anheuser-Busch to sell the Cardinals to DeWitt. That's how, and no, everybody was stunned when it was DeWitt when that was done. So I would think that Mr. DeWitt would work in a similar fashion.
You would hope.
You know who his next door
Not
neighbor
think,
is
you
in
would hope.
Jupiter? You know who his next door neighbor is?
Who's that?
Tiger Woods.
That's who's next door neighbor.
Mr. DeWitt's.
Oh, really?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure they live like right next door.
It's
It's probably like
so-
300 yards
so,
apart.
yeah, oh yeah. But Andy, one time
Couple acres.
so
Yeah.
I rented a bike there at one time during spring training because I knew that Tiger lived in on Jupiter Island.
Yeah.
So I rode a bike over to Jupiter Island.
You're
I
going to
just-
stalk him?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So, but people have like a driveway and then they have a service entrance. They have both. And many houses have a little placard, just street level, really small, that says their last name. And I go past and I find Tiger's house. The house before his, I think, it said DeWitt. So I Googled the address of the house. Sure enough, DeWitt's house right next to Tiger's.
Well, that's why they can't afford
Fancy.
new players. He spent it all on his house to live next door to
He
Tiger
probably
Woods.
goes and wins money from Tiger on the golf.
He's
Oh,
talking. He's
man.
like, do we get a new like shortstop or do we go get a? Although they don't need a shortstop, I guess, but whatever they would need. Or do I buy a new house in Jupiter?
Jupiter. Thanks for
okay.
coming by, man. I like your
Yeah.
cat, by the way. Homies backwards.
It looks like homies.
This is
Yeah.
so. This is controversial. Did you see, especially during the Masters, where one of the players, like he has the upside down lettering,
Yeah.
was kind of seen as bad that he.
Oh,
did that.
really?
Yeah, but this is the new
Everything's seen as
trend.
bad. You can't do anything anymore without it being seen as bad. You know, like
So
this.
this is like the new cool thing is the
like
upside down lettering.
Oh, bad meaning good.
Yeah.
Oh,
There
Well,
you
I mean, bad like the Masters, they didn't like it. You know how
Okay.
they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. At the Masters, man, there's a
Fancier.
lot of rules in the Masters.
Yeah.
They've loosened them up, allegedly. Great to be here, guys. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you
And
very much
hey,
for
St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. This place is amazing too. Come on down and get yourselves a new upgrade, man. Listen, everyone hangs out in the kitchen when you go to a place.
Yep.
Everyone's in the kitchen. Everyone gathers in the kitchen. I almost ran over one of the employees here because I was gathering in
Tony,
the kitchen beforehand.
Yeah.
But so you come down here and upgrade your kitchen. If you want people to hang out at your house, you got to have a nice kitchen.
And
You
we
do.
are at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath, 330 Mid Rivers Mall Drive in St. Peters. You can learn more at stcharleskitchenandbaths.com. They've been around for 30 years. And out of more than 100 Google reviews, you only get 5 stars. They're averaging better than 4.9 on theirs.
Of course they are.
Bathroom and kitchen design, remodeling, and construction. They have plumbing and electrical remodeling as well. So if you need that done, get in touch with them here. And there's a great reason to come on over here because you want to maintain the value of your home. Everybody should want to keep their home as valuable as possible. And what they can do is, with interest rates elevated and stuck, they can help you change your home, change the dynamic of your home, but still maintain and increase the value. And there's no time to wait for a new build. So you want to take advantage of what you have in your house. Change your own house up right now by getting a new kitchen and or bath from St. Charles Kitchen and Bath right here on Mid Rivers Mall Drive. So there you go.
Thanks so much.
yeah,
And
coming
are you
up-
heading over to Blues practice?
I'm going to head over there now. Yeah.
You
See
get
what's
more
going on
scoops?
down there.
I need you to go get the story on Jobu. That has to happen.
I know, but I feel like I would if I delivered the story, it would just curse whatever positive
Yeah,
energy
that's
they have
true.
going on right now.
That's
Yeah, we don't
true.
wanna-
You know,
You don't want to
But
take
you
blame
can
for
get
that.
it and then have
Like
it
the
ready
old-
to reveal.
the old Andy would be wanting to do that. I'd be strategizing. How do I do it?
Yeah. Now you've grown up.
But now it's I don't want to get everyone all upset, get mad, and then have it completely backfire where it's negative energy instead of positive energy.
Andrew, May 2019, they bring the cup into the studio at 101.
Yeah.
I was doing the fast lane.
Yeah.
And I kissed it.
Yeah.
And put it on social media. People went bananas.
Oh, really?
Because we hadn't won it. And you're not supposed to touch the
Ooh.
cup or kiss
I
the
think
cup.
you can
surprised
touch
that
it
you
as long
did
as
that.
somebody who won the cup is holding it.
You didn't know? Really?
Jamal Mayers was here. It's funny because I was at his cup party years ago. I mean, everyone acted like they won the cup that night.
Uh-huh.
I think everyone raised it over their head. And then, and going to a bunch of the parties when it was here in St. Louis after the Blues won in 2019, there were so many strict rules. No, if you tried to take the puck and lift it over your head, you may have gotten tackled by somebody
Like
from
Phil?
behind. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were a little looser back then, I think.
So, yeah, well, this time, since it'll be our second time, we'll do what we want.
Oh, you think they'll win the cup this year?
I think they got a shot.
I think they've got a shot too.
Here's the thing I look at, Andy. What team in the league can they absolutely not beat 4 out of 7 times?
Well, I will say this. I was hoping they were going to play out of the Pacific bracket
Mhm.
to avoid Colorado or Dallas in the second round.
Mhm.
But even if you did that, you're going to have to play one of them in the third round.
Yep. And whoever comes out of that is going to be beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
that's what you would think.
now, I might, depending on what condition, you're buddies with Matthew Tkachuk. He's coming back for game 1, isn't he?
Not officially.
Really?
No, I mean he's hoping to, but I think they're just so cautious with it. But he's been eyeing game 1 from the very beginning. It wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I think he already tried to push it in the 4 Nations and it backfired on him.
Mhm.
So I think he's going to be cautious in terms of, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay.
So if he's out there, I won't be surprised at all.
I think with what they have, if he's 100%, I think it'd be really hard to beat Florida 4 out of 7.
Oh yeah, you're going to the Eastern Conference for sure.
Yeah.
There's a couple teams. The way Tampa's
Yeah,
playing,
they're playing great.
they're a little more rested right now. This could be Toronto's year too, although we don't need that. We don't need Toronto. I love it when Toronto loses in the first round, even though Chief is there and whatnot. But
if Wall can be their goalie, that'd be a fun story, right?
yeah, him or Stolars, whoever's going to get
But I
going.
want the
But
St. Louis kid.
yeah, so would
Yeah.
I would love Joseph Wool. Hopefully he can be the guy and take him to the promised land. He'll become an instant legend in Toronto if he can do that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
So have fun in practice. Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
stopping by.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Cam
Thank
and
you
Strick
for coming.
podcast, and then everything that we see on FanDuel Sports, right?
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Andy Strickland, he's got scoops for you.
By the way, I didn't mention this. I want you to know when you come by here at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath, you need to have a consultation. Talk with Keith or Tony, and they'll help you out. And they know everything about how to upgrade. So the key is to talk to them, come in and say, here's what I'm looking at. Here's what I'm looking for. And then they can help you. And they've also got good ideas because, Brooke, there's a lot of things in here like we wouldn't even think of for our kitchen and bath that they have and they know about.
Yeah, it's gorgeous in here. I mean, I had just moved into a new house in December, and I'm already getting some great ideas in here. It looks so nice. It's just, and also the lighting is fantastic. That I can't get over that too. The lighting's just beautiful in here.
It's like a TV studio.
It is. Well, it's even better than a TV studio.
Yeah.
But I love the way that everything looks. You can tell that they're on top of the trends. A lot of the stuff too that they have in here is things that are current, but I can't see going out of style. Can you?
No.
For your kitchen or bath? Because I think that's always the worry when you're investing in something like that. Believe me, at my old house in U City, we did that where we renovated the bathroom, and you get so worried about, will this go out of style? I don't see anything in here that would say, you have to worry about this dating and even 10 years.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful. We also want you to know here on the STL Sports Hub, Andy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley, that you can check out the Battlehawks and learn everything that you need to know about being Battlehawks ready by going to Battlehawks Hub Weekly now on Sports Hub STL. The YouTube page will have Battlehawks Weekly every week with Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Strotter as they get you ready for the season. And as we unfurl this Battlehawks season, you can also quench that hunger. Head to Lee's Chicken. Lee's famous recipe chicken has the Battlehawks box. Score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99 only at Lee's, famous for chicken.
Strick Nasty just dropping a bomb on his way out over here of like, I heard. I was like, oh, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? I hope not. I know that there's a lot of theories out there, and it's been going on for a while about the DeWitts wanting to sell this team. Randy, you and I have discussed this. The grass is not always greener on the other side, because on the other side, it could be Stan Kroenke.
It could, or it could be anybody who would treat the franchise like our market size.
Yeah.
The market sizes that we are near, and we aren't, as we've proven with our attendance, we aren't any different than anybody else that's our market size. The market sizes that are close to us are Pittsburgh, our Minnesota, our Cleveland, our Kansas City, our who am I leaving out here? Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. It's just, it's a bunch of mid-level teams. And the market sizes, unfortunately, the people that own those franchises treat them like that. And that's not good. I don't know if Mr. DeWitt still wants to spend a lot of money. But I know that they want to win. I know there's a lot of people out there that say they don't want to win. Well, they do want to win because that's how they're going to be able to sustain Ballpark Village, by having a good baseball team. And I would be really frustrated, I think, if a new owner would come in here and treat the Cardinals like any AL Central team is treated, or like the Reds or the Pirates are treated and their fans are treated. I just think that sometimes you get, and I know people hate it when I say this, you get a little bit spoiled. I'm spoiled by the success of the Cardinals. I would hope that we can maintain the excellence the Cardinals have enjoyed under the DeWitt ownership.
I think anytime that you invest in your development, that is always a good thing. I have nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's making sure you invest. It does frustrate me, and I'm sure a lot of fans feel this way too, that they got away from spending on development, and they pretty much had to admit that during that off-season press conference. But anytime that you can invest back into your players, I think that it's a good thing. I can't see DeWitt's wanting to sell this team personally, just me.
Well, Mr. DeWitt, obviously, Bill DeWitt Jr., loves baseball. He goes to people's houses to buy artifacts for the Cardinals Hall of Fame and Museum personally, because he just has such a love for Cardinal baseball and for the history of the franchise. I don't know that Bill the Third.
He's more business-like.
Yeah, he doesn't hate baseball. Yeah, but I just don't think that he has. It's not like he doesn't have passion. He just doesn't have the same kind of passion that Mr. DeWitt Jr. has had. But that being said, I've talked to Bill about the plan and having Chaim Bloom come in, and he thinks that they're going to have more I've talked about get ready for what they do in Tampa. And the way he explained it is, well, it'll be more of a hybrid. He said, we are not going to make a trade for a player that has one WAR better than another player. We aren't going to work that way. They still want to have their stars, but they want to have a hybrid in place where they're developing and just doing things the smart way. But I don't think that we'll ever have a team like we had in 2004, where you had Walker and Edmonds and Sanders and Rowland and Renteria, Tony Womack and Albert and Yachty, because that was Peter Gammons always put this very well. He said, the Cardinals have a $120 million team that they're paying $80 million to. They have the hometown discount, and that just doesn't exist anymore.
No, yeah, it really doesn't exist anymore. But with this group right now, we were talking about how they did during the homestand. I'm curious if more fans are going to be inclined, and you guys can weigh in on the chat, if you're more inclined to come to games. I think this is an exciting team to watch.
It's fun. Yeah,
it is.
They're using their athleticism. They're doing things that they aren't station to station.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're stealing every base in the book. They aren't the 85 Cardinals, but they're doing things that I think are kind of out of Ollie's comfort zone. I think I give him credit for being more aggressive, using the athleticism and making the team more fun to watch.
And we talked about the Brant Brown effect and how you're seeing that different approach. I like the approach a lot more this season at the plate.
It's so much more fun to not strike out all the time.
It
right?
is.
So
and so that's why I'm saying this is a lot more exciting to watch this season, because I like their approach at the plate better than prior.
When you're a three true outcome team, and the three true outcomes are home run, strikeout, or walk, but you never hit home runs, that's just not a great outcome. I don't love that. So, how about this from Ellipsis 150? This is an initial J. Lee. They want Elon Musk to buy the Cardinals.
Oh man.
Ellipsis says,
well, he's producing his own baseball team at this point. He's creating his own little army of kids that's
true. Yeah,
enough to field a baseball team.
Field a baseball team. That's a good point. Let's see. That would be a heck of a story to have the Blues playing the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. That would be. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
Kachuk against the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you root for?
Who would we? Well, the Blues.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Why would you?
I would absolutely root for the Blues. Yeah,
okay, just making sure.
Yep. No, I don't want Matthew. He's already got one. He doesn't need another one.
He doesn't need another one. No.
So, Miller Time 1980. Sleep on the Jets. Look to the second round, please. STL. I'm assuming that he thinks that we're sleeping on the Jets. No, they won the President's Trophy. They're a good team.
But there is the President's Trophy curse that's out there.
And I think people, maybe for whatever reason, a lot of people are sleeping on the Blues because of their overall record rather than what they've accomplished in the last quarter plus of the season. 20 wins, 4 losses, 4 overtime losses in the last quarter of the season. That's pretty darn good.
And Hellebuck, too, I think there is something when Jamal was talking about Binnington being in his head a little bit. I think there's something there, too, with the 4 nations that we've seen. But also Hellebuck, it's been 4 years since he's won a playoff series.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about different animals in the playoffs, I'm always going to take Benner. There's just something about Benner in playoffs, and we saw in 4 Nations too, when the stakes are the highest, he just turns into a different animal.
I wonder, it's got to be his competitiveness, right? When we talk about what makes him so great in the big moments, he is. I know that this is stolen from George Steinbrenner because he called Dave Winfield Mr. May. I think that Bitter is probably Mr. May.
Yeah.
Bitter doesn't get hurt. They probably beat Colorado a few years ago, right? If Kadri doesn't run.
And that's why we have Kadri at the top of the hit list.
I wish that water bottle would have been full.
I loved that whole story, not of what exactly happened with Kadri, what he did there, but the whole thing of like how, especially Canadian media, they were always trying to find some way to really just gang up on Jordan Binnington. And I felt like they really added that to it where you would have thought that he would have tossed a dumbbell at Kadri.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like, did you see what happens? Like in Binnington, the way that he played it off, he was just like, I thought there was a trash can there.
It kind of was. But the other part of it is, and you're right about the Canadian media, they didn't even discuss what Kadri had done to Binnington.
I know. It was the focus was the water bottle. Like I said, you would have thought that they would have he threw like a dumbbell at him or something like that. And it was just shows you that they wanted to gang up on him so bad. I don't know. Maybe that narrative has changed a little bit because of Four Nations, and I'm glad that he was getting a little bit more credit. But man, even recently when he had that scuffle, they were jumping all over him on that broadcast.
So do we have 4 Canadian teams in the? We have in the playoffs. You've got Winnipeg, Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa. Right? Did Ottawa? Everything is done. Yeah, Ottawa's playing. So I think that with the way things are set up, that he needs to beat a couple of Canadian teams. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Gang up on him a little bit.
Yeah, so beat Winnipeg in the first round, and then we won't get a Canadian team in the second round. And then beat Edmonton in the third round. So beat 2 Canadian teams. Okay, I'm good with this. And then beat a Canadian team, either the Senators, Maple Leafs, or Canadians for the title. So
5.
Yeah, beat 3 Canadian teams out of the 4 that you win.
There you go. And then everybody will be just so happy in
In
Canada.
Canada, they'll be thrilled with.
They'll
Jordan
be
Binnington.
thrilled with this.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. I like this idea. We're thinking.
Yes. Now we have a little bit of time for overarching.
Uh-huh.
So any last thoughts, questions, concerns that you have for us? The Cardinals playing today. They're back on the road, so we'll see how that fares for them.
1-5 on the road
Mets.
so far.
Maybe they can fix that.
Yeah, maybe. Or is it 2-4? Yeah, they won 1 in Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
1 in
The
Boston.
Skeens game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's right. So I think that's one thing the Cardinals need to do better. And as a young team, sometimes you have to learn those sorts of things. But I think they're capable of, from a talent standpoint, winning on the road. Let's see how they handle the pressure and the dynamic of playing in New York, though, this weekend.
Yeah. They have New York, and then who do they play after
Atlanta,
that?
go to Atlanta. 4 in New
Atlanta.
York, 3 in Atlanta.
And then they're back here to face the Brewers.
Right. So, and yeah, no, they are 1-5 on the road. I was right the first time. 8-4 at home, 1-5 on the road. So they need to pick that up a little bit.
Yeah, they do. They really need to. I saw an interesting question on X that I wanted to ask you guys, and this is off topic. And we didn't get to do Uncle Randy yesterday, so this is kind of my Uncle Randy question for you today.
Okay.
As we are at the St. Charles Kitchen and Bath studio today. I'm going to call it a studio because it's beautiful lighting here. I want to take it with me. It's gorgeous. But what is a subtle way that somebody shows you they're a bad person? So this could be how they handled themselves, maybe with waiters and waitresses, or for me, it's the shopping cart theory. If you can't put up your shopping cart, then you're a bad person. It takes 2 seconds. You were able to go get the shopping cart. You can put it back. But what is a subtle way in chat? You can weigh in too of how somebody can show that they're not a great person.
Yeah, I think there are multiple ways to do this. That is the perfect judge of character because it shows how you treat the masses when you don't put your shopping cart back in the cart corral. There are a couple of other things though, and I know post-pandemic people treat front-facing people very poorly, but when you do treat a checker at a convenience store or a grocery store, when you don't say thank you or when you're just on your phone for the entire transaction, that tells me a lot about you because I think we're missing out on human interaction. And I can understand why the people that are checkers at stores and stuff, why they would just keep their head down and not say anything because they get treated so poorly by so many people.
Social media has made us less social, I feel like. It's been more of an excuse of where you don't have to do as much front-facing stuff with people. And so people have just lost their man. Another thing that drives me nuts, and this is just a small thing, but just even when you do something like hold the door for somebody, like you say thank you, or if you happen to need to get in front of somebody for something, I feel like a lot of these transgressions happen at grocery stores, right? Where we talked about shopping cart, but doesn't it drive you nuts? Like when you're in an aisle and somebody just jumps in front of you and they don't even say excuse me or something. I'm fine with you if you need to grab something and I'm taking a minute, but just saying excuse me, or if you need to get past someone instead of just kind of shoving your way through, why don't you just say excuse me?
Yeah,
that drives me nuts.
I'm with you. Ellipsis 150. When I let someone go in front of me in traffic and they don't wave, I'm with you there, and I wave, but I'm not so sure people can see into my car.
I don't know. I don't either. I do it either way. I make sure I do like with a smile so they don't think I'm like.
You know what I do sometimes
angry.
when the weather is warm? I wave at them. I open my moonroof and wave at them through my moonroof.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah, to thank people.
But customer service, it has changed a lot. Having worked, that was the only thing I could get like in high school, I did restaurant work and was a server.
So people if you aren't aware of it, Brooke worked at Chick-fil-A, where it's like the happiest place on earth. How were you treated there?
Chick-fil-A, people are great at Chick-fil-A,
good.
honestly. I think people are really nice. I have heard from people that people have changed, and I think the treatment of customer service people probably has gotten worse after COVID because it seems like some manners have gone out the door. But I worked longest in a bar in Nashville, and so I did waiting and that stuff. That was a little bit harder when you were dealing with the public because then you add alcohol to the
There you
mix,
go. That's
and
the
that's
thing,
a
yeah.
whew. Man, that would be rough. That'd
Yeah.
be really, really rough. We would also have people try to run out on their tabs all the time because in Nashville, it's so busy, people coming in and out. And so you'd have a lot of people who would conveniently, try to walk out on their tabs. And there was one time I had to jump over the bar. It was a big tab. It was a big, giant tab. This is, if you're working in the restaurant industry, probably not the best idea. I was like 20 something. And this person racked up a huge tab and I saw them try to walk out the door. I jump over the bar and go in there and grab them back in. I'm like, no, you're going to pay this.
Good for you.
Because the policy was, and I think this is for a lot of restaurants, this is why you don't dine and ditch, is that the server or bartender is responsible for that tab.
Yeah.
Because you should be watching your customers is how they
I'm
do
glad
it.
you grabbed that person. No, it was a male.
In hindsight, probably shouldn't have done that
Yeah.
and let somebody else handle it, like the bar back or something. But
But you knew who they were, and it could happen in a hurry too. They get out and then you lose it, right?
yeah. And I had already had a feeling that they were going to anyways. They were definitely trying to dodge it.
Justin Kopp or Cope, if you give us, I think it's Kopp, K-O-P-P. I work in retail, and it's amazing how many people come in on their phones daily. I would say it's 10 to 20% of people. See, that's frustrating to me. If I'm standing behind somebody that's on their phone, that bothers me. I think that you should be interacting with the person that you see the face of in front of.
Yeah.
And you know what? Just tell the person on the phone, say, can I call you back in a second? Or can you hang on a second? Something like that.
Some Ellipsis 150 said, Brooke, have you ever seen the YouTube channel called Cartnarks? It's this guy who goes around and rats out people who do this exact thing. That's hilarious.
I think that's great.
I can't stand it when I see that at the grocery store. And you even notice they're so close to where you can put your cart back.
Right.
It takes 1 second. If you can take your butt into the store, then you can take your butt over and put it, back where it needs to belong with the cart. I can't believe that people do that.
It is frustrating. We're going to be back in studio tomorrow. Our thanks to our friends here at St. Charles Kitchens and Baths. You need to stop by. Again, the address is 330 Mid Rivers Mall Drive. We're here in St. Peter's. Easy to find. Stop by and talk with Keith or Tony. Get a free consultation. Find out about what you can do to upgrade your kitchen and bath. They do fabulous work, and they have great deals for you. And you can find them on the web at stcharleskitchenandbaths.com. But it really is a fabulous place, and we thank St. Charles Kitchen and Baths for having us out here.
Yeah, it's been awesome to come out here. As Randy mentioned, it is super easy to find. They have the flags out front. I did not need a GPS to be able to find this on the street. I was like, oh, there it is right there.
Yeah.
So easy to find. If you're looking to remodel your kitchen and bath, they have a lot of beautiful stuff in here.
And they've been around. They've been doing it for more than 30 years. They've got a 4.9 plus rating on Google. So you can trust them. You can check them out on the web and just make sure that next time you're going to get your kitchen or bath remodeled, it's through St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. We have Cards Hub 365 coming up. Do we have a 1 o'clock today, Matthew?
Yeah.
We're doing a 1 o'clock pregame. Cards Hub 365. And then obviously after the Cardinals take on the Mets tonight, Palante against Griffin Canning. Should be a good game as the Cardinals open this 7-game road trip, 4 in New York, 3 in Atlanta. And the Cardinals will try to stay on the winning track. As we mentioned yesterday, if the Cardinals won last night, they would have the same record after 18 games that the 2004 team that won 105 games did. They're 9-9, just like the 2004 team. So, Brooke, logic would dictate, and you all know, right? It's math.
No.
9-9, 9-9, 105.
How many more games do they have to play, Randy?
Yeah, we got 5.5 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
it's fun.
It is fun.
And if they get to 10-9 tonight, you just go to DraftKings.
Lay down a bet now.
Yeah, get your futures bet in there.
Love that.
Yeah. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, Matthew Rocchio. You didn't get to see as much of Matthew today because he was really working hard here at St. Charles Kitchen and Bath. Matthew, thank you, sir.
No problem.
And thanks to Jamal Mayers for coming in. Thanks to Andy Strickland for coming in. And thanks to you for being a part of the show. Did you have fun today?
Yes, of course.
We did. And we will see you tomorrow on the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley right here on Sports Hub STL.